Welcome back to the channel. Don't adjust your audio, I've had a cold so my voice is a bit all over the place. This is the Kawasaki GPZ 600R and this is the bike that established the super sport class. Kawasaki stole a march on all their competitors when they launched this bike. However, it also became, I believe, one of Kawasaki's biggest missed opportunities. Let me explain why. Announced in late 1984 and brought to market in spring 1985, this bike was a real quantum leap over everything else in the market at the time. Let's bear in mind, during the 70s, the Japanese manufacturers had basically eradicated the British manufacturers who'd been in the marketplace for some time. And as we moved into the 1980s, it turned into something of an arms race between the Japanese manufacturers. Development happened at a massive rate of knots. And this reflects what was in vogue in the middle of the 1980s. When you take a step back, you've got things like 16-inch wheels, which were the big thing in the mid-80s. You've got anti-dive brakes. Short-lived, but it was something that was at the forefront of their design attempts. And you've got water-cooled engines. For mid-sized bikes, this was quite a rarity at the time. Admittedly, the bottom end is only development of the previous GPZ 550 engine, but the rest of it was all new. You got things like the styling. Mid-sized bikes didn't have ball fairings like this, and also you look at the silhouette. It is a mid-1980s MotoGP 500cc racer outlook. I can remember looking at these in the showroom when they were first out and thinking, it looks like it's come just from the racetrack. You look at this sort of flat top with the cutout for the seat. That was exactly what MotoGP bikes looked at the time. The other thing is, which is quite obvious, is the perimeter frame. Bikes up to that point, most of them have been a spine frame down at the, over the top of the engine. This was a perimeter one, and very much a race-inspired kind of design. So how did it go wrong for Kawasaki? Well, they had the market sector to themselves. They were the only ones in 1985 with a 600cc supersport bike like this. It was theirs. And the following year, Yamaha launched the FZ600, which really was not a supersport bike. It had the existing XJ600 engine, which was air-cooled. Actually had to have smaller carburetors because they built the FZ600 perimeter frame and the carbs wouldn't fit in between the frame. So that wasn't really a competitor, so Kawasaki had nothing to worry about then. But in 1987 along came the Honda CBR 600, and that was a much better developed bike. It had 2 more years development. It had things like 17-inch wheels, which had then become much more popular. It had a more powerful engine, and generally all round, I will admit, despite being a big Kawasaki fan, it was a much better bike. But so what did Kawasaki do in response? Practically nothing, because they had this bike. They'd also launched the GPX 600, which was a very, very similar bike. It had the same engine. The 600 GPZ had acquired a few more horsepower along the years. But otherwise, they just carried on with it. They did no development to it at all, and eventually the model stopped in 1989. It was replaced by the ZZR 600, which, whilst a very capable bike and very fast in the straight line, it wasn't a super sport racer style bike. And Kawasaki didn't even re-enter the market sector until 1995, when they launched the ZX6. I think this is a massive missed opportunity for Kawasaki. Had they continued to develop this bike, they could have kept it ahead of Honda, I believe. And the bikes of that era, the CBR 600 is considered top dog. I think with development, I believe this bike could have been top dog. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Love to hear what you think in the comments. And in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, we think you're going to enjoy this one as well.